Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. I'm your host, Robert at Islam for Europeans. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Wishing all my Muslim brothers and sisters a Ramadan Mubarak and an Eid Mubarak, as this is the last day of fasting. Eid will be tomorrow, inshallah. So may Allah accept all of our fasts and all of our prayers and make us among the successful and the righteous. And may Allah grant victory to all those who are being oppressed throughout the world. Um, I wanted to make a response video to this question that a brother Omar Ali 50 made. Thank you very much, Jazakallah khair, for the question, Omar. I'm going to try to answer this as best as I can because it is a very good and pertinent question. So the original tweet was from brother Farid. Please like and subscribe to his channel as well. I would like to get Farid on eventually at some point. But he posted a statistic that says that 20% of Muslims in the United States are converts. Okay, you can see the statistics right here. Most Muslims say they're raised in Muslim countries surveyed. US 80% of Muslims said they were raised in a either an Islamic household or not religiously affiliated, and then 20% say they were raised in a non-Muslim household. So by default, you could say that the 20% of American Muslims are converts, which is a huge number. Now, Brother Omar Lee disputed or kind of, said that this doesn't pass the smell test. He says, if 20% are new converts, why are they not even 10% of the masjid crowd or the mosque crowd? So this video is going to try to explain that in the best way possible. I responded to it on Twitter, but I'll make a video about this as well. So, there's several reasons why this is. And I think that, the fact that people are pointing this out, that Omar's pointing this out, is very profound, and it should give Islamic leadership pause as to why this is happening. Um, you know, it shouldn't be happening. You should see that the people who converted to Islam, at the very least, should be represented in terms of the demographics of the people who are going to mosques. You really have to go, underneath the surface to understand why the overwhelming majority of people who go to mosques are born Muslims. Now, I'm not making this video, as you know, with all my other videos. I'm not trying to lay blame on any one particular group or person. I'm just trying to explain, why this phenomena exists. Now, as a disclaimer, before, let's stop and think, is what he's saying accurate? When he looks around, what is he using to collect this data? Obviously, to him, this is just observational data. You're just looking at the mosque crowd and thinking that none of these people are converts, when in fact anyone can convert to Islam. I know people who come from an Arab background who converted to Islam. I know people who converted to Islam from a Hindu background. I know people who converted to Islam from a African American background. So just because someone doesn't look, quote unquote, look like a convert, I'm assuming, that he's thinking, a white person. It doesn't mean that they're not a convert, right? Now, having said that, for myself, whenever, I give an announcement, for the convert group that I'm affiliated with, you would think that people would come to say, hey, I converted to Islam too. So you have to really, in order to do its scientific study on this, you'd actually have to poll people, which mosques they don't really like doing. You get non-response bias, but for all intents and purposes, let's assume that it's true. And you see this like every Friday prayer. When I go to Friday prayer, I am the only convert there. It's pretty disheartening, but hopefully, inshallah, we'll try to understand why this phenomenon exists. So, I guess reason number one, right off the bat, and this is a statistic that's pretty much across the board in every Western country. Most converts to Islam in the West and other non-Muslim countries are women, right? So that's going to play a role into this, in terms of this bias of not seeing converts in a mosque, because first and foremost, women don't have to go to a mosque. They're not obliged to go to the Friday prayer. They're not obliged to go to any of the congregational prayers. They get more reward for praying at home. Now, feminists will say, this is unfair, but if you think about it, it's very difficult for a woman to gather up all the children, and take care of all of our duties at home, and on top of that, go to a mosque every day. Um, so that's just something we have to think about. And the person who's reporting, who's making this claim as a brother. So even if there are females who go to a mosque, right, proportionately, he's hopefully not going to see them because he's going to be in the brothers section. So right off the bat, when it comes to born Muslims, you know, uh, their demographics are 50-50 men, 50% women. Whereas for converts, it's maybe 30% women, 70% men. I'm estimating based on, recent statistics. But, right off the bat, that's one reason why you're going to see fewer converts at the mosque. A, because you're not looking at the women's section, and B, because, it's not obligatory for women to go to the mosque in the first place. Right. So that's, I guess, reason number one. Reason number two, and this is a big reason, is that masajid or mosques, they're built, they're designed, and they're catered to born Muslims, basically. Now, I'm not saying this to put blame on born Muslims. They funded these mosques. They're the ones who designed the plans on how and what it would look like from scratch. Their fathers and their grandfathers built these mosques. And they run them, right? So everything about the most mosques in the West, no mosque that I'm aware of are run by converts, with one exception, with one big exception. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. And all the programs that they run, all of the language that they use, um, accommodations for women, accommodations for new learners, everything is based, for born Muslims. Let's just be completely honest. I'll just give you one example that I always use, the fact that, in most mosques, they speak their own heritage language. And I know that Arabic is, the sacred language of Islam, but even the type of Arabic they use is very advanced. They're trying to get Arab youth and Muslim youth to start using more Arabic because it's tied into their, Islamic identity and things like that. And they'll even, truncate the English version of the Friday prayer. And even when they give any type of English talk, they'll use a lot of Arabic words, right? And I'm not blaming them for that. I'm not saying they're in the wrong for that, but at the same time, you have converts who are coming in who are completely monolingual. They don't understand the language. And it's very easy that it's very, they're not going to fit in. And this extends to other heritage languages apart from Arabic. There are mosques in Canada where they speak predominantly Turkish. There are mosques in Canada where they speak predominantly Urdu. Right. So right off the bat, if you don't speak these languages, it's going to be difficult. It can be difficult to uh, integrate, to feel like you're 100% a part of the community. You're not going to understand the things that they're saying unless you're kind of a convert who is good at learning new languages and they're ready to jump right in. And that's just one example. You can think of several examples. I mean, there are some mosques that, are not a common, they have the women's spaces are smaller. Um, a woman who wants to go there, for female converts, sometimes the mosque is the only place of solace and they're living with their family and they can't pray in their family's house, or it's a completely un-Islamic environment. So for many of these convert women, the mosque is the only place they go to feel like they're close to God, right? And just other random things, like the programs that are run, for example, they're very advanced in terms of Islamic knowledge. A lot of these kids, they already have a base knowledge of Arabic and so on and so forth, and Islamic knowledge to begin with. Not many mosques have programs that are specifically catered to converts. So there's just, I'm not saying that there's, you could just basically say, there's less of a reason for them to go just because, the programs might not be there. And, even though non-Islamic programs that mosques will run cater to the born Muslim community, immigration services, ESL classes, um, weddings, so that's number two. And, on the extension for that, I'm going to make this number three, is that it's difficult to try to integrate into any type of, new community, whether that's, a new religion or just any type of new environment, like a new employment. So you have converts that are coming in that they don't really know many people. It's tough to fit in when you don't know anybody. You try to make friends. People don't really go to a mosque to make friends. They go to a mosque to worship God. Um, so that's I guess just, you could extrapolate on these, kind of these ways of thinking, in terms of like why it's more difficult for converts to go to mosque, or why they just don't go in the first place, right? Um, and then you have number three. So number three is converts are dealing with many situations in their personal lives that may prevent them from going to a mosque. Some converts are hiding the fact that they're Muslim from their families, and they don't want to go to a mosque because many times these mosques are in busy intersections. They don't want an uncle or an aunt to drive by and see them walking in the mosque with a hijab, and then the next thing you know, the cat's out of the bag, and your whole family's find out that you're Muslim. Uh, or it could be someone that you don't, maybe you're hiding the fact that you're Muslim from everybody, and you go to Friday prayer and you don't know who's watching you. You don't know if it's someone that someone you don't know. Um, so there's many situations that kind of like make it more difficult for converts to go to a mosque. And on top of that, many converts are coming from geographic areas that aren't close to a mosque. Some people convert to Islam and they live in a small town. Some people convert to Islam and they live in the county. Um, when you look at many born Muslim communities, Pakistani community, the Syrian community, and so on and so forth, many of them live in areas, segregated areas, self-segregated, that are close to mosques, right? Many Muslims will buy houses right next to the mosque so they can walk to it. So geographically, it's much easier for them to get to a mosque in the first place. Some converts don't have cars. The converts, especially in the West, especially in Canada, they're on many times on the lower rung of the economic ladder. Many of them have to take the bus to get somewhere. Many of them don't have a motor vehicle. So it's difficult for them to get to a mosque. And on top of that, it may have something to do with their job as well. And, there's the job itself. Maybe they work in a foundry, maybe they're in pizza delivery. Many times they're working for non-Muslims, and many born Muslims are in this type of situation as well. But it's I know many born Muslims who aren't in those types of situations. Maybe they work at an Islamic school that's attached to the mosque. They could adjust their whole schedule around to be able to get to a mosque, and so on and so forth. So those are some kind of like situational factors that kind of prevent male converts from going to mosques. And on top of that, born Muslims by and large, they don't interact with the convert's cultural sphere, right? So when you look at born Muslim groups that go to mosques, it might be, an Arab soccer league, oh, we'll play soccer, then we'll all go to the mosque. We can carpool, or like maybe they all work at the same pizza place, so it's going to the mosque is just like a normal thing for them. It's like going to church, for Christians, you go to the restaurant, you go to the grocery store. Oh, we're heading back. Let's go to the mosque as a family, right? And you have the family effect as well. Born Muslims, they have their entire families are Muslim, right? So they might stop in a mosque, and then 4 or 5 people come out. They all pray at the mosque. You're a convert, most of the time you're by yourself, right? So you're not bringing anybody with you. You're not bringing a whole group of converts with you, right? So that is another factor that we can go on and on and on about. Yeah. So, okay. So on to number 4, and I alluded to this beforehand, and I think specifically in the U.S. context, this plays a major role. Now, that statistic that Fareed quoted, that 20% of the American Muslim community are converts. A significant chunk of that are African Americans, right? Now, African Americans are the exception to the rule because they converted to Islam as a group en masse, right? They first converted to the Nation of Islam en masse via, Elijah Muhammad, and many of them converted out of the Nation of Islam to Sunni Islam via Malcolm X and Worth D. Muhammad and so on and so forth. So they've created this living, breathing, uh, Muslim subcommunity of African American Muslims. So this brother Omar Ali, um, like he may look at a mosque and go, I don't see any converts here. You could have a dozen, 20, maybe 20 African American converts, and you wouldn't even know about it. But for the most part, African American Muslims, they have their own masajid. Many of them, some of them have shut down because of lack of funding. But especially in cities like Philadelphia, New York, you still have mosques that are run by the African American community. And I would, you could say even half of those are converts to Islam. So they make up a significant portion of the Muslim community. You don't have that in Canada, unfortunately. But it goes back to my original question of how you're getting your statistics. How are you, this is just basically observational data. I go into a mosque, I go to Friday prayer, there's no converts there. But, like I said, it could be that there's African American converts, and it could be that they just don't go to Arab and Desi mosques. They frequent mosques that are, run and are predominantly frequented by African American Muslims. Right. So I think that plays a major role as well. And let's look at let's go on to point number 5 is let's take a look at the demographics of born Muslims that are going to mosques. Right, as I stated before, many of them go to the mosque in groups. But even if they don't go to groups, look at the the type of Muslims that go to the like Duhur prayer, Asr prayer, the day prayers. Mostly it's older men. Many of these older men, they're already retired. They may be on disability. Some are living off of employment insurance, or they're on the dole. And and then you have the other extreme. In Canada, there's many professional, male Muslims, that are doctors, engineers, professors. They have the ability to take time off whenever, to go to a mosque. I worked for Muslims who've run pizza restaurants and so on and so forth. Sometimes they just they work a lot of hours, not during Ramadan, but when it's Ramadan, they'll just have their other Muslim employees just close up shop, and then they'll just spend all 30 days in the masjid, while the rest of the employees are sweating away making all these pizzas during Ramadan. Right. So I think that plays a major role as well. I think, when you look at mosques, especially in Canada, most people who go to these masajid, not all, but many of them who go to the masajid for, the 5 daily prayers are older men. Like I said, they're in a much different situation than converts. Like, I've never met a male convert that's in any of those situations. I've never met a male convert to Islam who's retired. I've never met a male convert to Islam who has who's unemployed. I've never met a male Muslim convert who um, is on employment insurance or is on disability. I've never met a male convert that is, uh, gainfully employed in a 6-figure income job where you can take time off to go to a mosque. Right. So, that's that. I think that plays a huge role too. I have to look at the demographics of people who are going to born Muslims who are going to a mosque. And on top of that, there are many born Muslims who don't go to mosques that, who should be going. Right. I mean, there's a lot of people who identify as Muslim, born and raised in a Muslim household, and they're just simply not practicing. Right. So to say observationally, I don't see any converts here. I mean, you could say the same thing about born Muslims as well. There's many born Muslims, and all you have to do is go to, see the mosque at Laylatul Qadr. The place is packed because some people, they only go for mosque prayer for Laylatul Qadr, and if you're lucky, Eid prayer. Right. So lots to chew on. May explain why it appears as though converts don't go to a mosque, and I would love more converts to go to the mosque. We had our iftars for our local convert group, and mashallah, was a smashing success. Our group is completely run by converts to Islam, and we run it ourselves. We had a potluck iftar, and we had record attendance. We had maybe like 40, 45 converts come to these events each time. That's that's a program where you're going to get more converts to go. So if you have more programs, that are catered to the convert community, more people are going to go and more people are going to pray because the mosque is right there and so on and so forth. But because you don't have that at mosques, for the most part, you're not going to see these converts coming, and you're going to have to really think outside the box if you want them to come more. And again, the responsibility also rests on the converts themselves. I'm not putting blame on the born Muslim community, but I do think that converts play a major role in being I guess represented in Muslim communities in the future. So I'll leave it at that. There's probably more reasons why, but those are the major ones. But yeah, leave your comments in the comment section. That's my time for the day because I'm running out of data, as you can tell. But I'm your host, Robert at Islam for Europeans. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, my computer is really messing up here. Hopefully I'll be able to chop this out. Not very tech savvy. So yeah, if not, you're just going to hear me just see my face for like the next couple of seconds, hoping that this recording went well. So okay.